911 location of your emergency.
Breaking news out of North Idaho. Moscow police are investigating a homicide on King Road.
Is she breathing?
No.
So 5'10", all black. Could you see what color his eyebrows were or anything like that?
No, I don't remember what his eyes look like either.
Officers discovered the bodies of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Maddie Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves, but no weapon has been located at this time.
Arrested. That's 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger in custody today.
Kohberger allegedly stalked one of the victims. That's false.
We do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area. There are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants.
Hey guys, I'm trying to get everything off my desk because I was not prepared in way of having everything cleaned off my desk. Today is Thursday, right? You know, because yesterday I forgot what day it was. What's today? Thursday. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. It's almost Friday. Go that way. Don't push those off of there, Zelda. Okay. We are about to listen to the change of plea hearing 1 year later. And you know, normally, at least this is how I would hope. Let's put it that way. This is how I would hope a normal case would go. Someone pleads guilty. Things are iffy a little bit because holy shit, 180, what's going on? Oh no. Over the next year, things come out, should start making sense. Puzzle pieces should start coming together. Then a year later, people sit down and they rewatch the hearing and they're like, oh, now this has this answer and now this has this answer and this has this answer. That's not what's going to happen here. The exact opposite is actually going to happen here because we still have no answers. We still have nothing that points where they want us to think that it points. If anything, it makes even less sense now. And other people look shadier and more suspect than the person who pled guilty. And it's the weirdest thing because it makes no sense. And that's not how this is supposed to go. Why it's doing that? Who knows? But that's what's happening. So we are going to rewatch together the hearing with the infamous statements made by old Santa himself, where he says that they cannot put him in that neighborhood. They cannot connect him to the house. They cannot connect him to anyone in that house. And they continue to have no answers. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be slightly aggravating because, again, that's not normal. That's not how this is supposed to work a year after something like this happens. So, it's going to be annoying again, but I don't really think that, I don't know. I'm so tired of it. I'm just so tired of it. And I know that it's not for nothing because we really are going through the information. We really are going based off of everything that is coming out here. But it's really frustrating to know that all this time later, and we are no closer to a damn thing. And the state entered into this knowing that that was the case because they were fully prepared for that Q&A at the end of the actual sentencing to know that they were going to have to say no to everything because they have no answers. And to do so with such confidence to a live media audience that was very well, trained. I'm sure they were given, you can't ask us about this, or, this person gets to ask this question. We know these things are all orchestrated. But the fact that we are still here with nothing further to go on, we still have no receipt. They still have not shown us the Amazon receipt. Now, Steve made some sort of weird comment in his little interview that we went over last night on Murder Unscripted that he knew that the Amazon click activity was about to come out. We don't care about the Amazon click activity. We want the receipt. We want the invoice. We want the pictures of the item that was purchased. We want the truth of that. All they've given us is that a gift card was purchased and it was ordered on a family Amazon account and sent to the house. They have not even verified themselves that it was actually Kohberger that got that. The only thing that we've gotten even a little bit of is something that we haven't even gotten to in the book yet. That should be in the chapters coming up that we are going to be reviewing here over the next few days, where apparently his mom says something about it being her idea for him to have it because he hikes a lot and it was for protection against like wildlife. Well, that's just coming from a book that we already know can't even copy and paste and transcribe correctly. So who knows? And even if so, he was a hiker. And that was one of the arguments that Ann Taylor had, was that just saying, oh, well, he bought this and some vegan supplements, that's not showing the entire purchase history. That doesn't show the behavior pattern of all of the other hiking equipment and all the other things that was also purchased on that account that we later found out about. Why they're being so secretive, why they haven't gone back in to prove that his car actually is the car after they already screwed that one up and had to remove everything, and they want us to just poof him into Moscow and Indian Hills around 3:30, and they just forget trying to prove it's actually his car coming from Pullman. That's gone. And they never tried to go back in and correct it. They were just going to leave it that way. Lie to the jury about the involvement with the FBI, and the FBI wasn't just involved with the IGG. They literally touched everything. This is the most frustrating thing. It really is the most frustrating thing ever. It really is. And the crazy part is that you got one family who just wants to one down and move on, which I found out new things about last night that I didn't even bother to look at before that now I'm extremely interested in, and I'll just look it up and see if it's worth talking about, but neither here nor there. Then we have the another one who demanded truth and transparency and honesty, and for the state to be open to the public about what was going on, and for things to stop being sealed, and for there to be no more closed hearings. And now they're out here demanding everyone stop reading documents, stop asking questions. He did it. There's nothing else to talk about. Oh, look at us trying to raise money for something we don't even actually truly believe in, honestly. And we're also trying to sue the school. We need all of our money. Don't read anything. Don't ask any more questions. You're ruining our future. And then we have the other ones who I completely understand, honestly, the reason why Karen didn't want her daughter's body all over the place. I get that. But they went really too far trying to pretend that even the cars outside belonged in the redacted list. You went too far. And then we have the Kernodles, who are just in the background following along because they don't really know what else to do, I guess. I don't know. I can't speak for them. I haven't spoken to Kara in a long time. But I know that something that she did tell me about the WSU lawsuit is that what she was under the impression is that the intention was to get some of the discovery that was not being given to them. Is that going to be how it works? I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going to happen there. But this one thing stemmed so many things. This one thing has now stemmed like 5 different lawsuits. Plus, we're waiting to see if anything's going to happen here. We've had lots of drama, lots of experts come out and talk, lots of books be written that have been practically debunked in full. Very few things that we've found out are even true at all. And we need to remember that everything that we just read, everything that we just went through in these documents is the most recent information that has the most up-to-date answers. So that is something that we are going to have to keep in mind as we are rolling backwards, as 2024 is the next one to start being unsealed. We're just waiting for the order to actually drop, which who knows when that's going to happen. It took them, 8 months to finish number 3? And there's all these other things happening that Ann Taylor is in the middle of, that the state is in the middle of. So who knows when they're going to get around to that. Unsealing documents in a case that's already been sentenced is probably not at the top of that priority list. They're dealing with the leak, criminal case for the leak. They're dealing with whatever the hell is going on between them and the Idaho Statesman in way of the financial records. Now we've got the WSU stuff going on, and stuff from this case is going to have to be transferred over there, and people are going to have to deal with that too. EWU Media versus Moscow. A lot of that's going to have to deal with court stuff too eventually, I'm sure, when it comes to documents being unsealed and the way that the FOIA requests are done and the public gets their information. There's a lot happening. Plus, these new DOJ changes to post-conviction relief. We need to sit down as a channel and go over what that really means and if it's appropriate to think that it's going to do anything here. I don't know the stipulations for that. I don't know the minute details that are going to matter for that. So I need to go over that still myself. There's a lot. There is so much. There is so much. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open this. Oh, and I am also aware that Steve was doing another interview with Nate Eaton with East Idaho News yesterday as we were going live. But I will also admit that I completely forgot that until I was in the bathroom straightening my hair. So let me go and actually see so that I can get that together. Okay, so same title of the $8 million price tag stuff that we've already talked about. So how long is Steve on here for? Let me skim. Oh, that's Kevin Fixler. I don't care about that. Does Steve come on this one? Oh, yeah, there he is. He's in the car. Okay, so at 27 minutes, 35 seconds is when Steve starts talking in this one. We already know all about the money situation. We covered all of that, and we went over the interview that Kevin did with Bryan, and that's what we also did yesterday morning with the documents for the Idaho Statesman versus Ann Taylor argument. And again, I will say, I don't like Kevin Fixler because of the way that he does things, but I also now, after reading the documentation, understand why he thinks that Ann Taylor is hiding something. Because the way that the court already basically gave her a win by saying, we understand that you feel like some of these things should be sealed and some of these things should be redacted. You can approach the court with these documents and give us specific reasons for why they either need to be completely sealed or further redacted than what they were already going to redact them, because certain things under the public disclosure rules were still going to have to be implemented, even though these documents were being unsealed. Some things were still going to need to be redacted, apparently. So instead of taking that win, which is still giving her control over what's going on, she is appealing the entire thing with the Supreme Court. So when I see a win and you're mad at that win and now fighting the win, I am definitely going to question what you're hiding here. But it can either be shady as shit, because at this point, a lot of us don't have a lot of faith in Ann Taylor, me included, and that's been like a lot longer than a lot of y'all. Me and my buddy were talking about how Ann Taylor was really really teetering a line for like over 2 years before the plea. Like, it's been a hot minute that we've been discussing Ann Taylor here. And slowly, some of you started seeing it too. I just made a comment every now and then, but she started just rolling in it and doing it herself. And then we started noticing all of the fights that she didn't fight, that she should have fought, that we can see that actually have proof and backing, versus the things that we actually saw her doing. And we're like, what the hell are you, what are you doing? Then we hear that there's suddenly a plea, and Turvey, one of the experts that was helping her figure things out right there till the very end and finding lots of things, apparently, gets told 3 different stories for why it even happened. So one of the only good things that I can think of for the reason why she would want to appeal this all the way to the Supreme Court is that there is something going to happen here. Because what would be the other reason? There's no other good reason for this. These are finances that were paid for by the Idaho state citizens in their taxes. Billions, not billions, I mean, come on. Millions and millions of dollars. This case was politicized into oblivion. 8 million, and that's not even half of it. On what? With all this unknown testing and things that didn't have answers. What could you have possibly spent that much money on? The numbers make no sense. And it needs its own investigation into what the hell is happening there. Because that's crazy. That's crazy. And then to also consider all the other things, again, that this case was politicized for, that also raised a shit ton of money and cost the taxpayers a shit ton of money for these changes to be made. On the name of this case, on the name of these victims, on the names of punishment for Kohberger. Like, what? It's crazy as hell. Thank you for the 2 beautiful dissonants. I appreciate that. And thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, Lorena. Congratulations to those who got those. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, this case is just really, it's really just a weight. And it's a weight that a lot of people should feel. Regardless of if you're active on social media or not, just like if you're paying attention to what's actually happening here, how could you not really just like not sit back and be like, what is the hell? What the hell is happening? What did I just listen to? What did I just hear? What did I just read? What? I don't know how that's not an instant natural reaction for a lot of people. I really don't. Regardless of how you feel about if he did it or not. How can you sit back and see how this is processed and see how things have gone down and see how things have dominoed just like literally into nothing with no answers to anything and things that make even less sense now. We are literally seeing the most vocal parents in this case run a foundation for DNA testing of hair and unknown DNA at murder scenes. And they are pretending that those exact things do not exist in their daughter's case. And they are cussing people out and screaming and yelling at them and calling them names on their precious little Facebook page of love. If you ask them why they're not doing all these things they are now pretending to stand for their own child. You're an idiot if you even bother asking the most obvious question. How is this reality? I really just don't understand it. How is this reality? Like, seriously. It's so gross. It's so gross. All right. Well, I will say, I do have a couple things from the city of Moscow. Well, really one new thing. They finally sent me the documentation for item 40, the not Xana's blood in the kitchen that ended up in the refrigerator situation anyway. I have no idea what it says, but I did tell them that I was expecting information about the refrigerator situation in this chain of custody information. So we'll see if there's something in there about that. So that's something that we need to go over in a live. Then we also have the section here where the Goncalveses are talking to Nate Eaton. We're going to need to go over that here soon too. There is also another interview from a guy named Reed. I think his last name is pronounced like Ofshin or something like that. It's I don't know. It's different. Outcast has that audio. That's something else that we are still planning on going over. There's a couple other things, but honestly, like I mentioned yesterday, I kind of want to do some stuff on my other channel tomorrow about the MK Ultra stuff that's been happening and coming out over the past week, over the past few days. And then I know that some of us here are following along with the Celeste, Rivas Hernandez, and David situation. And there was some sort of documentary that came out. And according to people that have watched it, that have also been really hard following this case, it's actually people working the case. It's actual law enforcement working the case. It's actual information, real information about the case, which is really interesting considering that that's still happening in court. So I'd like to do our live little watch review things that we do here on these things because we do have other stuff like also happening. We've got like the second season of this Amazon thing going on. We got the book that we need to finish. Cy Ray's book should be here soon. It got to the channel PO box yesterday and they should be shipping it to me, I don't know, either today or tomorrow. So less than a week, we've got to finish Broken Plea. We got some things to do. We got some things to do for sure. So, oh, there's Alasky. Dad just got back from the pawn shop. Now Alasky's barking. He's the loudest one for being so tiny. Yeah, and if you missed that too, yesterday I debuted my dad's little dog because he was wagging his butt and barking everywhere. Okay, are y'all ready to be depressed? Are y'all ready to be depressed? I'm going to put the captions on. Alrighty, let's see. let's get started. It's 45 minutes. And I am going to like say things, but I mean, let's just watch and be annoyed. Okay, we've got lots of breathing. I don't remember how much breathing was in the beginning of this.
All right, this is CR 0124316665. Defendant is present in custody with counsel, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, and Ms. Taylor, Ms. Massoff, and Ms. Barlow. The state's present with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Horowitz, Ms. Jennings, and Mr. Nye is here as well. Am I miss anybody? I'm sorry.
Ms. Allen is here as well.
Ms. Allen is here as well. Very well, thank you. All right, we are here today to entertain a change of plea. Before I start, I want to address some issues of concern and otherwise. First, I appreciate everybody in attendance today being on their best behavior. Please, no outbursts or demonstrations. Any such conduct will result in immediate removal and may result in an inability to attend further court proceedings in this case. I want to point out that there have been calls by some for the public to contact.
I need to find my pin. Okay. I'm going to write down that I want to FOIA whatever threats and calls and emails and stuff were bad enough to be sent to the sheriff's office, because we know some were. I want to see those.
To me and my office in an attempt to influence my decision-making in this case. This has been extraordinarily disruptive for court staff and the ability for them to get work done, not only in this case, but in other cases where defendants are entitled to have their cases processed, and frankly, as important, if not more so, for victims to have their cases processed in those cases. It's also highly inappropriate. A court is not supposed to, and this court will never, take into account public sentiment in making an opinion regarding.
So, like, I get what he's saying and blah, 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 right? But June 2025 was a Monday. The news broke hella late, all right? Because I got that Carfax like 4 o'clock, and I was reading over it when it broke. So it was like later on in the evening. The hearing happened on the 2nd. That's a Wednesday. There was one business day, Tuesday, in between those days. So, like, I get it. But to say that, oh my God, it's like disrupting so many things when there was just one day in between, I don't think it really interrupted much. I really don't. I think you're over exaggerating that part. The threats and stuff obviously is not okay, but like, I really feel like he's just trying to show power, you know, because he didn't have to address any of this. He didn't have to dive, indulge the drama. He could have just handled business. Instead, he decided to talk about it for nothing. What did it change? Nothing.
It's judicial decisions in cases. Courts should, and I always will, make decisions based on where the facts and the law lead me.
Yeah, that's what I hope is for you.
I have not read any of the numerous messages, nor listened to any of the numerous voicemails that have been sent to me and my staff. Those have all been forwarded to security and, where appropriate, to law enforcement.
I want those.
I ask that you not continue to mount such campaigns or to send me information like this, because, again, it is not appropriate and, frankly, not something I would take into account
but you're talking about
when
it.
deciding a matter in a case like this. I also want people to understand some very basic concepts about the ideas of separation of powers, what the court's duties are, and what the duties and the rights of the executive, or in this case, the prosecuting attorney, is. The executive, the elected prosecutor, is the sole authority in deciding what charges to pursue, including whether, as well as what penalties to ask for, and what penalties to pursue, including the death penalty. This court cannot require the prosecutor to seek the death penalty, nor would it be appropriate for this court to attempt to do that. This court, in considering a plea agreement, if it were to reject this plea agreement, cannot force the state to seek the death penalty. My role and power in considering a plea agreement is extremely limited. My role is to ensure that the defendant's plea is given freely, voluntarily, and intelligently. If those things are met, I can only reject a plea, such as the one in this case, where I'm not being asked to agree to the sentence in advance. If I can only reject it, for example, if the defendant does not meet or admit to all of the elements of the crime. That is, I can ensure what is called a factual basis to the plea. Finally, I want to offer my apologies to all the families, including the victims' families, the families of the defendant, for the short notice for today's hearing, and I'm sure what must have been the hurried efforts to get here. I, like most everyone else, learned of this plea agreement Monday afternoon and had no inkling of it beforehand. Prior to that time, I was under the belief that this case was proceeding to trial, as had been indicated, and my staff and I were busy continuing to work on preparations to have potentially 10,000 citizens of Ada County come to jury duty starting in mid-July, with the questionnaire process in mid-July. It was, once I learned of the defendant's decision to change his plea in this case, it was important that I take the plea as soon as possible because of the extraordinarily administrative,
I'm going to go ahead and send this in while I'm letting this play. This is what I'm doing. So on 7/2/25, Judge Hippler opened the plea change hearing for Bryan Kohberger by stating there had been threats upon the court due to the sudden change of plea and that several were forwarded to law enforcement. I am formally requesting any police reports, statements, interviews, photos, videos, and every appropriate attachment included in this information forwarded to law enforcement by the Ada County Court employees. So let's see what they do.
Extraordinary administrative efforts that were otherwise attendant to the process of this, getting this trial potentially underway on time, and including the significant process of bringing, again, potentially up to 10,000 jurors to come in and fill out juror questionnaires prior to the beginning of the voir dire process. And so it was important that we, if we're going to go down this road, do so expeditiously so that we can avoid those costs and expenses associated with that. Otherwise, if it was not going to result in a plea, or for some reason the plea were to fall through today, that we could continue.
Like, you think he might be lying? He might be lying. We'll see what they do.
Diligently towards trial at the time specified. And so that obviously required that we act quickly. And so some folks may have not had the amount of time that we would otherwise allow for them to travel here. And so, again, I apologize for that. I want to make people aware that during the hearing, if you are to leave the courtroom for any reason, you will not be readmitted during the hearing. Also, when we finish the hearing this morning, I ask that the public and media wait in their seats until the victims' families and the defendants' families and others are escorted out of the courtroom before you start to leave. Finally, I want to acknowledge the trial court administrator and her staff, the Ada County Sheriff, and the Ada County 4th District Marshal Service for the huge lift that they've accomplished in preparing for and orchestrating this hearing today, as well as to all the security attendant today that you see, and some of whom many of whom you don't see, with less than 48 hours notice. And so I appreciate the hard work that they've been doing. Frankly, some of them while they were on some vacation prior to the trial starting. And
so many vacations get in the way of freaking justice and truth, don't they, in this place?
I had to call that short. And so I appreciate very much their professionalism and dedication. All right. That said, let's move to the business of today. I understand the state and the defense have reached a plea agreement in this case. For the record, I have a written plea agreement which indicates in sum, the defendant will plead guilty to all 5 counts in the indictment, burglary, felony, and first-degree murder, 4 counts. The state and the defendant stipulate, that is, that the defense is not free to argue for a lesser sentence at sentencing to the following. The defendant on the burglary charge will be sentenced to 10 years fixed, and that the defendant on counts 2 through 5, the 4 counts of first-degree homicide, on each count would receive a fixed life sentence, all 5 of those counts to run consecutive to one another. Defendant, as part of the plea agreement, waives his right to appeal, as well as his right to appeal the sentence and his right to seek leniency or reconsideration of the sentence under Idaho Criminal Rule 35.
Not true.
This is not a Rule 11 agreement, meaning the court is not bound by the plea agreement and could impose a different lawful sentence at sentencing. The stipulated agreement between the parties is the maximum on each count. So theoretically, the only thing the court could do would be a lesser sentence at sentencing. But the defendant is not free to ask the court to do so under the plea agreement. Are there any other material terms of the plea agreement that the parties would like to make? Obviously, the plea agreement, the written plea agreement will speak for itself and be part of the court record.
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
The written plea agreement will speak for itself. It was a bunch of checked off boxes. It didn't say shit, sir. I'm going to go pull it up too.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, very well. All right. Ms. Taylor, have you had sufficient time to discuss this case and all of its ramifications with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Have you discussed fully with him his rights, defenses, and possible consequences to him of the guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been able to do all the discovery you feel necessary?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you informed your client of the importance of providing the court truthful and accurate answers in taking this plea today?
I have.
Have you apprised your client of any and all offers and counter offers and answered his questions about those?
Yes.
Do you consent to the entry of the plea today?
I do.
And remember, Turvey said that when he asked her why all of a sudden this plea happened, what caused all this, he didn't say what he was told. And he hasn't been actually accurate about a lot of things, but he said she gave him 3 different stories so far about why this happened.
Mr. Kohberger, I need to ask you some questions this afternoon, or I guess it's this morning still. I do this to ensure that so that I am assured that you understand the nature of the charges to which I understand you're going to plead guilty, as well as the possible consequences to you of your guilty pleas. I want to make sure your plea is given voluntarily, and I want to make sure that you actually committed the crimes to which you're pleading guilty, because I don't want you to plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason I don't accept your plea, then it is possible.
And if for some reason I don't accept your plea, we've already established that this could have gone the right way if Judge Hippler would have just said no. He could have said no and made them go to trial. He's the judge. Could they have appealed it? Sure. But you know what the process would have been for that? They would have had to push the trial back. They would have had to push the trial back probably another year, maybe even 2. Because they would have appealed. They would have probably tried to get a change of judge with another. They would have tried Supreme Court stuff. Something would have happened here. They wouldn't have just accepted no. He should have said no. And yeah, it's cost a lot of money. And yeah, we're already complaining because they have no answers for anything. This was a big cop out. Judge Hippler should have said no.
That your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And now, while you're standing, actually, why don't you take the oath from the clerk?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter not even before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Kohberger, just to make it easier, you don't need to stand when you speak to me. I appreciate the sign of respect, but for convenience, you can remain seated. All right. Before I start.
That part was so strange. Like the way that Hippler has been just a straight up rude ass asshole the whole time. But then all of a sudden he's like, thanks for the show of respect, but you don't have to stand up. It was just so weird.
Start asking you questions today. Have you consumed
It's so freaking weird.
Substantive questions? Let me ask you, have you consumed any alcohol, drug, or other intoxicating substance that would impair your ability to understand or exercise reasonable judgment?
No.
You feel like you are thinking clearly today?
Yes.
All right. I want you to understand what the possible penalties are for each of the crimes to which I understand you're going to offer a guilty plea today. They include on count 1, the burglary, a fine of up to $50,000 and a period of incarceration of up to 10 years in the state penitentiary. You may be required to pay restitution to any victims of the crime. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5 for first-degree murder. The consequences include a fine of up to $50,000, a period of incarceration of life imprisonment, which is a requirement of a sentence, that it be a life sentence with a mandatory minimum sentence of at least 10 years on each of those counts. In addition, you would be potentially responsible for a fine of up to $5,000 to each of the victims of your crime to be enforced in the form of a civil judgment to operate as additional punishment. This is in excess of any restitution or fines that the court could order. And again, you may be required to pay restitution to the victims of the crime. You would be required to provide, as to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression, and potentially pay for analysis of those samples. You would lose any right to possess, purchase, or carry a firearm, the right to serve on jury duty, the right to hold public office, and the right to vote.
See why that, but see, saying all of this stuff to somebody that you're about to give life sentences to is weird. Like, duh, he can't have a gun if he's in jail. Some of this needs to be cut out. It's very odd.
Do you understand the charges and all those possible consequences?
Yes.
Yeah. Like, it's all just a bunch of irrelevant talk, like just to make it sound important. And
you've heard the plea agreement that I talked about today. Do you agree with that plea agreement?
Yes.
And do you understand the nature of the charges that are that you've been charged with that I understand you're going to plead guilty today to?
Yes.
As as I indicated, I'm not bound by the plea agreement, but the plea agreement is for the maximum on each count. Do you understand that I'm not bound by the plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anyone,
Which, by the way, it even says right here, he signs where he says, I understand my plea agreement is a non-binding plea agreement. This means that the court is bound by the agreement. The court is not bound by the agreement or any sentencing recommendations and may impose any sentence authorized by law up to the maximum sentence. The court is not bound by the agreement. If the district court chooses not to follow the agreement, I will not have the right to withdraw my guilty plea. I understand I do not have the right to withdraw my guilty plea if the court chooses not to follow the agreement. But it's non-binding. He didn't sign this one down here where he says, yes, I'm aware that it is a binding plea deal. So I feel like this probably is super important. Non-binding means it doesn't have to stick. It doesn't get to stick. It can be unstuck. You know what I mean? I just really hope that the reason why Ann Taylor is hiding things is because there's something happening here. And not because she's shady as shit and trying to hide what they spent money on for other reasons. Because none of this shit makes any sense.
promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone other than the state's agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Possibly.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And counsel, obviously there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
See, that's why I don't understand why that's something that's said in that in the courtroom for this, because we also know that's not true. And what it really was is there was like a certain deadline. What was it, like 40 something days after the actual sentencing to do one thing, and then he has until September for the post-conviction relief stuff, as far as we're understanding. And there's also always things to file. I don't understand why they put that on there. They say all this extra shit. They add all this extra shit to make it sound so important when half of it's not relevant or actually accurate. Like, none of these spiels have been changed in like 100 years. It's time to update some shit. It's too much. Yeah, who knows what Bill is writing? He's doodling on something.
Have you had enough time to decide whether or not to plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Given your choices, do you believe it's in your best interest to plead guilty?
Yes.
Have you discussed fully the matter of pleading guilty with your attorney, and are you satisfied with the advice you've received?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you to your satisfaction about what your rights are, what your defenses may be, and what the possible consequences to you of your guilty plea are?
Yes.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked them to do?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation of you?
Yes.
I have received a written guilty plea advisory
That's what I just showed you.
questionnaire that is purported to be filled out by you. Did you fill that document out?
Yes.
Did you understand the questions that you answered in this document?
Yes.
And are the answers that are outlined in this document your answers?
Yes.
Are those answers truthful?
Yes.
Did you sign the document?
Yes.
And this document outlines many of the rights that you have in this case should you not plead guilty. Did you understand those rights?
Yes.
They include a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to the presumption of innocence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to require the state to prove your guilt as to each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to confront your accusers and cross-examine witnesses presented by the state, including by utilizing the subpoena power of the court to accomplish that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
False. False AF. You literally told Ann Taylor that when it came to her being able to prove that they had evidence about alternate perpetrators, that the only way that she would be able to cross-examine anyone on her little list was if the state had them up there. You refused them that subpoena power that you just mentioned, sir. Did you fail to forget that? It wasn't very long before this, like less than a month, bro. A couple weeks.
You understand you would have a privilege against self-incrimination and a right to remain silent, meaning you would not be compelled to testify if you did not wish to, had you not pled guilty.
Yes.
You understand you're giving up that privilege and those rights that I've just outlined by pleading guilty.
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the state would have had to have proven at trial had you, as to the crimes that you're pleading guilty to, had you, if you didn't plead guilty. Let me find the document. Hang on a second here. All right. So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence, Loca County, Idaho, you 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the...
Why did it just do that? This is the East Idaho News one.
So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that...
Thank you for the gift of membership, Scully. 2 new memberships. Congratulations to those who got those. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
On or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence, Loca County, Idaho, you...
I mean, yeah, you can see that being the way people answer every single time they've falsely confessed. That's the point of it being a false confession. Yeah, common sense. Common sense. Duh. Duh. That's like the whole point of what they're doing. That's like the whole point.
1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. As to count 2, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogen, from which she died. As to count 3, the state would have had to have proven that on that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Goncalves, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count 4, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count 5, also murder in the first degree, that on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him.
And then they even tried to say that even if they want to believe that Xana and Ethan were collateral and he only took them out because they saw him or whatever the hell their little story was, how were those two premeditated? If they were happenstance, according to the state. And how can it be premeditated when the 404B evidence they wanted to use that placed him in the area, they didn't use it for premeditation? How can it be premeditated when they can't actually put him in the area or connect him to the area or find anything on his devices that shows he even knew who the hell they were before this presser on 11/16 or before the crime took place on the 13th? They had nothing to prove the shit coming out of their mouths at all.
Him from which he died. Do you understand those things the state would have had to have proven?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has to prove those things because you're admitting those things are true?
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, like, that's how it works. It's just like when the Austin yogurt shop guys said that, like, the one guy said that they did it. That was a lie. That was a lie. When people literally plead guilty to things that they didn't do, this is how the script is written. There's nothing to read into that. I mean, you can see it however you want to. If you think that he's guilty, that's how you're going to see it. The people that actually read the proof, the evidence, we know that nothing actually points to anything. So we also are very aware of the cadence that comes along with guilty pleas. It's nothing to super read into. You're going to want to see it how you want to see it. But we also go, again, based off the actual evidence, not just discernment or confident sounding tones of voice. That's crazy.
I want to also make, for the record, the defendant has provided with the guilty plea advisory form a document entitled Written Factual Basis that purports to have the defendant's signature dated 1 July 2025. Did you sign that document?
Yeah.
That doesn't exist, ma'am. He never messaged either one of them. He never messaged either one of them. That is not true. The state said themselves there was no connection on social media. There was no connection anywhere. That is not true.
And did you agree with the written factual basis that is included there?
Yes.
And then let me ask you.
The Goncalveses said so. Kaylee's parents said so. The cops never said so. The state never said so. The documents never said so. The experts never said so. The Goncalveses said so. And they lied. They lied.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022,
Never.
enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Maddie Mogen, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
Did you, on or about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Goncalves, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
And did you, on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
And then on or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice of forethought?
Yes.
What about it? What about the fact that Xana and Maddie worked at the Mad Greek? What does that have to do with anything? He doesn't have any transactions at the Mad Greek. He's not on camera at the Mad Greek. They literally only had one thing from his searches that even regarded the Mad Greek, and it was like just a generalized area, show me places around me type thing, where Mad Greek happened to be one of the results. I mean, that's the facts of that. I have this information straight from the experts themselves that sent me the Google Drive. There was nothing there for that either.
I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the recitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents.
No.
The state's evidence as an overview.
No. That's not true at all. Not true at all. And again, the Celebrate married couple that did all of the work, we've listened to their panels, and I have their work product straight from them that they sent me the Google Drive for, that I have in the description box for you to go and look at yourself. And you can listen to them say all it was a generalized area search of like places around me, because he had just moved there. And it happened to just be in the background because Mad Greek was a place in that area. But no, he never even searched it directly. No, that's all false.
Would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing in his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho.
And it's a 10 to 20
Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants.
Can't put them
Between
in the area.
July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours,
My
10
Google
p.m.
Drive
to 4 a.m. on approximately 23
There'll
times.
be a folder called Celebrate.
Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Lake Tahoe County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman.
You see, that whole part is just so ignorant, because you did not need a traffic stop for that. And if you know the way that this was placed in, then you know that they only even added that traffic stop as 404B evidence because of his demographics. Name, address, car, phone number. When you enter 404B evidence into the court, according to the rules that we went over for the Idaho criminal rules, you have to say what its intention is. And the intentions that you can use it for are stalking, surveillance, premeditation, organizing, all of these things. And the state chose not to use any of those because he didn't do any of those things. Why they needed the traffic stop for his identification is stupid. Because no, you didn't. You had his school information and you had his actual Washington information with the plate change, with his registration, with everything. You didn't need the Latell County traffic stop. You chose to use it because it puts him in Moscow. But you didn't need that for his demographics. The way that they placed this into the court file was all a ploy to plant something that wasn't real in people's minds. It was a trick.
We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. The state's evidence would include a trial, video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance.
Now, also remember, they had to remove the car coming from Pullman. It was not going to be used at trial because it wasn't Brian's car. It had fog lights. And you can see that in two different angles of a camera. It's not some optical, whatever anybody else is trying to say. The fog lights exist. That's why they removed it. They were also 7 minutes off in their timing. So regardless, their timing was off and it was the wrong car. They want you to poof the Magic Dragon him into Indian Hills in Moscow already at 3:30. And they don't want to show you proof of how he got there. They want you to believe he left his house at a certain time and then literally magically poofed over to Moscow. They have no camera footage they were going to put at trial for the car actually being the car that they followed. Again, it had to be removed. And it wasn't just the cannabis shop two angles that we had. It was also that cross section at, what was it, Nevada and whatever in Pullman. That car also had fog lights. They followed the wrong car out of town and never went in all of the hours of footage that they actually did have, because Moscow, even though they didn't ask Pullman and WSU to do anything, they went around Pullman and WSU and canvassed and got footage, especially at the college campus. And they cannot show us Bryan Kohberger's car actually leaving campus that night at that time, or the next morning when they're trying to say that he actually went back. No, he didn't. Show me the car. Show me his car leaving Pullman. Show me his car leaving WSU. You literally have reports that we have from Pullman, from us FOIAing Pullman and them sending us information that they have that footage, those hours from the actual campus. Show us. They can't. They can't because it doesn't exist. And they would just wanted the jury to not notice. They wanted the jury to just believe he's some sort of magic ninja that can just transport undetected. No.
Surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence. The state believes that its evidence would then show
It wasn't near the house. It was near the Target. It was where all of the receipts that he shops at was, that they were also going to show. It wasn't going to do anything special. It was all just, it was placed there for a reason and not for anything that matters.
that The defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked.
Which they have no proof of.
The defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Maddie Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Maddie Mogen's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important to note.
So I don't know what everyone in here is arguing about, but I'll tell you now that I'm not going to deal with it. I'm really not. I don't really care what y'all are arguing about when it comes to what happened on another channel. Shut the fuck up about it over here and pay attention to what we're doing. Or leave. Understood? Because what y'all are bitching and complaining about doesn't happen here, honey. Go complain about it over there. Don't bring your bullshit from somewhere else over here. Because that's not what happens here. The person that y'all are acting stupid about, y'all argued somewhere else. And if that happened over there and that's not the behavior that we see from her over here, then that's y'all's problem. So take it the fuck back where it came from. Because I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to start blocking you. I don't give a shit how long you've been here. I see the people at fault. Shut the hell up. Last warning.
Single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath. The state's evidence would show that Xana Kernodle, still awake at this time, in fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the third floor. It was on the second floor on the west side.
Yeah, the 2-hour-long DoorDash order.
As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana.
See, this is like also something they have no proof of, because again, her blood was not in the kitchen, like the guy who hasn't answered and lied about said it was, and it wasn't her blood on the pong table. They don't have any of Xana's blood outside of her bedroom. And they want you to believe, for some reason, that she got attacked outside of her bedroom and was like chased in there. But they have no physical evidence to prove that. Nothing. This is literally something that they've created. And we know that that's true because we have all of their data now when it comes to what they collected and what was blood and what wasn't and where went what. We know. So they were going to go in there with this, knowing that there's no actual facts to prove that she was attacked outside of her bedroom. They created an entire narrative out of nothing. Crazy.
And he ended up killing her also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. Each victim.
Multiple weapons used on just Ethan's legs. Multiple weapons used on just Ethan's legs. Never mind all of the other wounds on the victims that definitely are not a single-edged weapon. Never mind those small little weird circles on their bodies. Never mind the small little weird triangles that were left. Never mind the blunt force trauma. Never mind the dagger-like knife. We're just going to forget all of that exists, huh, Thompson? Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Suffered multiple wounds.
And nobody was.
I will state for the record, there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were 2 other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen where...
No. Just no.
that sliding door is that I mentioned before.
Thank you for the gift of membership, Sharon.
At
I appreciate that. Congratulations to who got that.
That morning, So this would have been 15 minutes or so later. Defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for
Wrong.
1112
Can't
King
prove it's
Road,
his
which
car.
is immediately next door to the
And again, please remember, the original list of vehicles that got sent to be looked at, Hyundai was not one of them. Hyundai was not on that original list of vehicles that they were looking for. Everything was reverse engineered. Everything.
west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom would see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns to go south on Walenta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town.
But you don't have the camera either. See, that's a whole nother thing that people don't understand, that don't know the facts because they just watch mainstream. They literally stated in the probable cause order about where this car went. And this is not an exaggeration. If you've been here and you've read it, you know exactly what I'm about to say because I've said it before, and you know that it's accurate. There's no cameras to the right that shows the car. There's no cameras to the left that show the car either. So because there's no cameras off to the left that show the car, it had to have gone right, even though there's nothing to the right that shows the car either. That's exactly the way that they ran this down. They literally transported this man everywhere they conveniently wanted to put him, with no proof of how he got there, with no trail. Just poof, there he be. That's how they were going to present all of this to the jury, with nothing they could actually trace. This is the most insane thing ever.
The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And
They're about to say it exactly pretty much the way that I just said it, just in his own words. Listen.
Show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway.
Yes. Yeah. And they want to pretend like there weren't businesses that the car would have passed in front of before it got to said back roads. There were plenty. They produced nothing. Yes, that's exactly how I just reworded the way that the PCA broke stuff down, because that's exactly what he just said. Yeah, exactly what he said. Hey there, Elizabeth. Thank you for being a member for a month. Thank you for being here.
95. From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks heading back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5.
Because see, what Brian's alibi is that he went the opposite direction than where Pullman is, towards a park area, a place where he goes all the time. His parents have said he has always had issues sleeping at night. A lot of people, millions of people across the planet have issues with sleeping, and a lot of them get in their car and go for drives. A lot of them unplug and go for drives. It's not unusual. See, what happened, what they don't want people to know is how much the service just disappears going the way that Bryan actually went that night. So that's why they can show the car coming back in, because the car coming back in, guess what it doesn't have? It doesn't have the fog lights. And we know that he left that day because they've told us that he left that day. The defense team is not denying that he left his apartment at some point and drove, but he drove the opposite direction. That's why, in my opinion, they can't go back and give us the 7 minutes of time back and show us the right car leaving Moscow, because it doesn't go towards Moscow, because it goes the opposite direction that he said he went. News outlets went out there, drove the direction, and had to drive back to Pullman in order to be on their broadcast because there was no service. And it's crazy because one of the ridiculously inaccurate, invalid, just dumb people that the Goncalveses gave the information from, you guys know it as the Garrett report. You know, apparently the company that's holding information hostage for like $10,000, according to old Stevie, you know, yeah, that company, that guy is the one who told us exactly how cell phone towers work. How you could be traveling north, but because of either heavy traffic, lack of signal, whatever reason there is, your phone could jump east, could jump west, could jump back, and make you look like you're going in a direction that you're not going based on where the cell phone tower is it needs to attach to, because it will continuously hop around until it actually grabs a connection strong enough to hold on to. That's why in a lot of cases, there's false pings that make people think they're going in a direction that they're not, and it completely ruins everything, and people have to end up backtracking and go in an opposite direction. It happened in the Julissa Fuentes case. One of the very first cases that we covered here when we started talking about Kylie Rodney. Then we started talking about Julissa Fuentes, and that happened there. They had the family looking in town at a whole fielded area, doing all kinds of searches because the ping said that she came back into town. No, she didn't. She fell off a cliff, off a mountain. The pings were wrong. They wasted like almost a week. All of that matters. Everything about the cell phone towers and everything I just said about pings matters so much because that's all they have. They don't have camera footage that does anything, and their cell phone information is wrong. They had literally nothing that they could actually concretely put down here. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Later that morning, this Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Nope.
He was there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence.
No camera footage, again, like I just said, of him leaving WSU in the bright-ass early morning hours. All of the scanners, all of the cameras in the early morning sunrise hours. And the only footage that they gave us was a little white, short-ass car passing in front of a gas station around 9:12 in the morning that you can't even make out the kind of car it actually is. It's short. It's stubby. You can't see inside. You can't see who's driving. And again, you're telling me that at 9 o'clock in the morning with the sun up, with all the businesses that this car would have had to have driven past, the Nevada street cameras that you swear was Brian's car, but it wasn't, it had fog lights. You still had daylight cameras of that intersection. And you can't show us that it's his car leaving Pullman that you want us to believe was there for 10 minutes and then went back to his house. No. He could literally have gotten up from his living room, went to his bathroom and back to the living room. And because of that little bit of movement, the cell phone jumped a tower. He could have walked around the neighborhood of his little apartment with his neighbor, like we were told that he does all the time after class. Him and his neighbor walk in the parking lot, talking about all kind of stuff. And then went back into a closed door, and because of the way that the service works, jumped the tower. He could have just been sitting right there on his couch, not moved at all, and because of traffic, it jumped a tower. That's how that works. So again, they have nothing on this either. Nothing. All those highway cameras? No, nothing to show me a parking sticker. Sun's up, nice and bright. You can't show me shit. No, I'm sorry.
About 9:30, the state's evidence will show, evidence taken from the defendant's phone, that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment with a thumbs up.
And I will always show this every time this gets brought up because I don't understand how the hell the state was allowed to do this. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. The state, when they gave us a picture of Kohberger from that day, they gave us one that they had whitewashed. There's no other word for it. They gave us one that they whitewashed. The one that you see here, where there's dark underneath his eyes, where his hair is really, really dark, where he matches the shower linoleum, that was state's evidence. That's still sitting there as state's evidence. The one over here, where his nose is shinier and he's red and it's darker, this came from Dateline. This came from Dateline. You know where the leak came from? This one, right here, where his shirt's the same color as the Costco and the Albertsons footage, where he definitely has a different color than the linoleum. This came from his cell phone. This came to me straight from Celebrite. Why was the state allowed to present this shit, edited evidence, to the court? And I've said this before. In my situation, when I had to send proof that I was still being contacted, that I was being harassed by third-party means by who we have a protective order against, I had to send them one screenshot showing what I wanted them to look at, and then another one with no arrows, no circles, no, hey, looky here, this is what I mean, nothing. It had to be pure, no edits. So why the state was allowed to submit this to the court when this is what the real photo looks like? They gave him brown eyes. His eyes are blue. They changed his literal DNA by giving him brown eyes. Even in the Dateline one, his eyes are blue. And the Judge Hippler didn't say a damn word to them. As a matter of fact, look at this one. This one is where I went in and like had them melt together to where you can see all of the drastic differences. Let me show this one. Watch this. Look how different. Isn't that insane? Just look right here at the way the original one is versus the Dateline one. Look at the differences. And then look right here compared to what it actually was. This came straight from his phone. This is what the court should have submitted. Why they did it, why they got to send in something that was so edited, I will never understand, because that is not how court protocol goes. You cannot submit something as evidence that's been heavily edited or edited at all. So that's, I never understood it. I never understood it.
The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman. And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses down there. This area is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there.
See, and that was them basically trying to say, oh, the knife's probably down there. That's the intention for him going down there. That's his, passive aggressive way to say that, which they still have no proof of. But see, that's also my point. The state themselves were going to tell us, like we saw in the probable cause order, that he went down there, that he went to Albertsons, that he went to the Costco. Did they not think that we were going to see the camera footage to show that what they submitted of him did not look like what the camera footage shows? Again, the Celebrate photo has him in the green shirt. That matches the camera footage of him driving around that day. And never mind the fact that we can see his car driving around, again, in the daylight in these videos. There's no fog lights. They're showing us evidence within a few hours of themselves. And they just were going to submit that, apparently, even though it's not showing up as something that they were going to actually show in way of the documents. Because if you pull the documents from the FBI, that entire chunk is missing. They started at 3:30 already in Moscow. He got to actually mention the drive. So does that mean they were going to try to find a way to sneak in the fog light footage and hope the jurors didn't notice? Because it really wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't shock me.
In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined, on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 2, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath, as the state believes, to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders.
Or he was looking around to see what they looked like because there was talk online and he was following the case like everybody else did too. You know how many K-bar searches I have on my computer? You know how many K-bar searches I have just on my Amazon since this case became a thing? Looking up stuff and not actually purchasing things, you're making up a story. You're making up a story to fit your narrative. Except the actual vital pieces to that story are non-existent, which makes you just a liar. But he's, close to retirement, so he doesn't care.
The evidence also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon, where all these transactions had occurred. Later that week, the state's evidence will show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman, to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington.
What they don't tell you is something that they also were very aware of, which is that Kohberger went in there to change his plates before the crime took place because that's what he thought he needed to do. But at the advice of the clerks of the DMV office, he was told to wait until his 90-day period of being in the state had expired so he could pay less for the fee of transfer. They would have been changed beforehand. Then would the plate change have even mattered? Would they have even mentioned it? Probably not. And that came from who? The DMV lady who worked with him. That's what was told. It's on camera. He was told to wait. So he did. And because he did what he was told to do, it was being now used against him when it's irrelevant. They probably weren't expecting for us to ever see the DMV video. They probably never expected the DMV lady to come out and do an interview. They probably didn't expect a lot of things, honestly.
That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate. The vehicles seen on the surveillance cameras of the defendant's car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it.
Also false, which again, we've gone over this. So if you've been here for a while already, you've seen this. If you pull up the state's exhibits, state's motions in limine when it comes to the make and model of the vehicle, and you go to the very end page, it has black and white photos of the vehicle from the 1112 camera. If you look at the bottom portion of the bumper of the vehicle, again, with what was submitted by the state, it literally has a rectangular shadow right at the bottom, middle portion of the bumper, where what normally goes? A license plate. That's not something that somebody came out and photo edited and is now trying to push off as fact. That's literally in the documents on the case of interest website submitted by the state. So while he is saying that, they have submitted proof that we can visually see otherwise of. Again, he probably just didn't expect for us to pay attention.
At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate.
Yeah, no shit.
Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester of studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania, and they conducted what's called a trash pull. During the nighttime hours, agents of the FBI, who assisted immensely with this case, working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the content.
See, that's how it went down, is that it was a normal trash day. The sanitation truck ran through, picked up the trash, got to the end of wherever the neighborhood, whatever gate I guess was, and then the FBI and the rest of the team came in and took the trash and wasted who knows how many thousands of taxpayer dollars to then have that trash bag flown by jet back to Idaho so that the ISP forensic lab could go through the trash. Yeah, that happened. With the Pennsylvania FBI office helping in this case, they decided to do all of that extra shit for a trash bag. Now, the original story that they tried to pretend is what they did is that they tried to act like they were these like covert little badasses sneaking up into the yard and ninjaing some trash out of the driveway or some shit. And that's not how it went down. It was a normal trash day so that it looked like normal, so that they weren't suspicious of anything. There was no trash just stolen the way they tried to act like they did.
Sense of that from the Pennsylvania residents of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath that was next to Madison Mogen's body in the bed. Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him, and it matched the DNA found on the knife sheath.
Now, I will also remind you guys of this part because this is part of the newer information when it comes to there being the chain of custody issue. What we see is emails between Jeff Talbot and someone else. And it has to do with the label for the swab that was taken on January 5th when he was extradited over. Because they took that swab and they sent something back to the FBI from it. I can't remember if it was the swab itself or if it was like a clipping. But there was something from that swab sent to the FBI. And there's emails saying that the destination, like the way that it's written on the chain of custody, needed to be corrected. So we have those emails. We're still waiting to get verification on what exactly happened in the very beginning, but we do know from having our own information from our own FOIAs about the knife sheath chain of custody that that sticker that has all the chain of custody names on it was all written by the same person, same handwriting, same time, literally just like filled out, but the sticker is for the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab. So whoever wrote the chain of custody from the scene to MPD to the trooper to the lab has to be somebody who works at the lab, unless something else ended up happening and Moscow sent one over there, and that's what the 1118 thing is, because they still haven't given us full-on information about that. They act confused, even though it's their literal own paperwork. You know, they obviously can't read their own shit, or they wouldn't be so confused. But it's the same handwriting. So there's chain of custody issues on multiple parts, not just one. And we have an idea about the situation with the swab itself going back to the feds. But when it comes to the knife sheath itself, Yeah, somebody from the Idaho State Police Lab wrote that in. There's no way it couldn't have been someone from there. But the thing is who gave them the information? They would have had to have gotten the chain of custody paperwork that we actually ended up getting when we did ask for the 1118 information from Moscow, because they ended up sending us the official chain of custody for the knife sheath that we should have gotten from our October FOIA that they didn't send us. See, everything is so disorganized. It's just like for the 1112 footage, the portions that have no audio, they had to go run and find those. Tim Smulders had them in separate folders. None of that stuff was all together. And the way that Mia Batista grasps, her pearl necklace when I told them how disgustingly disorganized they were and how disappointing this entire thing had been. Like, she'd never heard that before in her life. I don't see how. It's so freaking disorganized. It's gross. They have no idea where anything is over there.
Next to Maddie's body at the crime scene. I can tell the court and the public the weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found.
Anywhere.
And of course, we're now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it.
So clean, but had Band-Aids and trash wrappers and empty water bottles all up in it. So clean, but it had old receipts from 2016 still in the dashboard. Sure. Okay.
I think we can all look to our own cars, and those compartments in the doors. We try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless. Vince's car had been meticulously cleaned inside. And
the evidence list of stuff that came out of his car is like a paragraph that big. It's like 10 lines. All kinds of trash, wrappers, bubblegum wrappers, Band-Aids, rubber bands, all kinds of trash. They're so full of shit.
The state would present to the jury that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this.
Oh,
the defendant has studied crime.
It was his plan to leave Band-Aids and gum wrappers in his car. That was his mega mind moment. They're so stupid.
Crime. In fact, he did a detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was working on his pre-doctorate degrees. And he had that knowledge.
So did everybody else in that class.
So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits that the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of, and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do, would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022. Excuse me. Mr. Kohberger entered the residence of 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that that is what resulted, and that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought. Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves.
I feel like this is all an act.
Chapin, and Xana.
That fake crying, soft shit.
Thank you.
Practice that in the mirror. I promise you that. No, that fake shit. He doesn't care. The way that they handle this entire case proves he doesn't care. Take that crying bullshit.
Based on the state's proffer, and importantly, based upon defendant's explicit admission to committing these crimes, the court finds there is a factual basis. Therefore, with respect to count 1, burglary, felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, murder in the first degree, as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogen, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Goncalves, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Right. The court will find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and each offense and the possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. The court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea and that finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. I'll continue the matter for sentencing in this case. I think it was mentioned on the call Monday afternoon, the defense wishes to waive a pretrial investigation. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state also?
Yes, Your Honor. The state does not believe pre-sentence investigation is needed given the evidence that is available. We want to, though, make sure that all of the victims have the opportunity to make statements to the court at sentencing.
Absolutely. And certainly both the state and the defense may present whatever sentencing memorandum and other documents you wish me to consider. The victims will be given an opportunity to provide the statements that they wish to at sentencing. Do we need more than one full day for sentencing?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. We have numerous victims, and we have victims who share unique perspectives on this, and we want to make sure that they all have time to express their feelings to the court. But I believe that if we can start perhaps 8:30 or so in the morning, that we should be able to complete it all in one day.
Defense agree with that in terms of the time frame?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So as it happens, we have some time reserved in this case in July and August.
This is how the courtroom cameras look.
The week of July 22nd is available. I don't know if that's too soon for the parties or the next week, the week of August 4 is available. Any preference?
Your Honor, we're prepared as soon as the court wants to schedule it.
The state, I believe, would be prepared on the 22nd. Right. We've told the victims' families that we're looking at approximately those dates.
All right. So because of the plan to bring in so many jurors to fill out questionnaires, I had
You're later, no answers.
Ordered that no other trials could take place in this courthouse the week of July 22nd. And so we will use that in terms of the sentencing date because of what I'm sure will be the significant interest of the media and the public and the logistics that will be required to make that happen. Without trials going, it'll be a lot easier to do that. So let's pick that week. Why don't we pick July 23rd with the idea that if for some reason we don't finish, we could continue into the 24th. And we'll start at 9 in the morning. Does that give your team enough time, Sandra? 9 in the morning? All right. Any concerns with that date?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, sir.
All right. Any reason why I should not rescind the non-dissemination order at this time?
You're right. I think that given the history of this case, it would be best if that remained in place through sentencing. So we have time to make sure there's the ability to completely answer questions. That would be the state's preference and recommendation.
Would have no objection for the order to remain in place through sentencing.
All right. I will, at this point, the idea to keep it until sentencing, which time it would be withdrawn in order to give the parties the space and time to prepare to meet what I'm sure will be the deluge of media requests. That's at least my preliminary decision at this point. We can always revisit if it seems to be, for some reason, I should. That said, obviously, I don't think the defendant, a bond was ever set for the defendant. Were it would be revoked. The prior order allowing him to come in civilian clothes is revoked given his plea and no longer the presumption of innocence. And in fact, now the actual conviction for the crimes. He will continue to be held at the jail pending sentencing. Is there anything else today?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
I assume that the trial date will be vacated.
The trial
and those
is-
4 jurors will be released.
The trial will be vacated.
Because you needed to
and,
mention all that, you
I'm,
big old dummy.
Sure that the jury
Sure.
commissioner will get word to those that receive their summons that they won't be required to attend. So
Thank you.
that said, again, if you would all please wait for the parties and the victims' families and others to leave the courtroom before you do, I would appreciate it. And with that, we're adjourned.
Wild stuff. Yeah. And I mean, look how many are getting overturned and things are having to go back to court. Just like all of a sudden, there's just like an influx of all kinds of stuff going back. There's even stuff happening in the Delphi stuff, is there not? I'm pretty sure there is. I'm gonna have to look and see what's going on, because I know that there was some stuff that people were talking about. It's just so aggravating. Going in and like seeing all this stuff and knowing again that after all this time we've had all these thousands of documents come out. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of documents. And nothing points anywhere. It's not normal, guys. That's just not normal. That's not normal. Okay, so I mean, I know all about like that. I don't know like all the specifics that have been going on in court, but I do find it. I don't really know if it has anything to do with anything, but I do find it interesting that they're coming out and telling us a lot more about the MK Ultra stuff. And like, not to say that people can like, have their own agendas and do things. But some of these situations, like Charlie Kirk, like other certain shoot 'em up situations, they kind of like don't make sense. And then you hear things in the background about like FBI agents visiting certain places and conversations being had and locations being tracked and all this previous interaction stuff. And you really just have to wonder like how much stuff that hits the news are MK Ultra type situations because something needs to be a distraction. There's somebody pulling some sort of weird social experiment that has the power to do so. I don't trust the government. Look what they've done to massive groups of people in the name of funsies. There's just a lot. So I don't know if that has anything to do with that. I don't know. I know that now confessions are being not considered confessions anymore. I saw some messages that the parents are now saying he never confessed to us. Apparently, whoever the boyfriend or whatever was of Tyler Robinson's is not going to have to talk or some shit. I don't know. I just see the stuff that's going on in passing. But I just wonder sometimes when these little weird, make no sense, how the hell did that come from kind of stuff happens, how much brainwashing is really involved, how much goes further into the MK Ultra type thing. It's always been in the back of my mind for a lot of things. The fact they're not openly talking about it is crazy. The alien disclosure, now the MK Ultra disclosure stuff, like there's a lot that they're coming out and talking about, and that's great and handy and all. But again, I always go back to what are they trying to distract us from? What is more important that we don't pay attention to for them to finally come out and explain to us one more time just how shit our government is to us, like we didn't already know, But I want to look into that stuff again, like I said, hopefully tomorrow. I don't know just yet what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. But whatever we do, it'll be like a daytime thing. I do want to go over some MK Ultra stuff though. So I'm going to go sit in the living room for a little while or go outside and just like look around on my laptop and see what it is. But I know they had like a hearing and a lot of clips and stuff are out there. So we might just go over it in sections. I don't know how long it is, but I'd like to really listen to what's happening. Because there's a lot happening. And this is stuff that people like me and a lot of you have been talking about and thinking about for a long time. So yeah, we're going to probably talk about that stuff soon. Yeah, all the Discord stuff was crazy there too. Very much insane. Hey, Sarah. They removed one of the docs yesterday. The 1/7/2020. they took their time because it was up a month already. Let me grab it. Is that the one? I feel like that one was one that we literally did a live on all by itself. Why does that seem so familiar? Let me see. Court record. Which one was it? Yeah. Huh? Okay, well, F it. We'll go over this real quick. So, according to Sarah, and she's the one who keeps like the best track of all of this. She's the one who tells you how many more documents we have left in these unsealing orders. She keeps track of all of this stuff. So Sarah said that they removed this from the docket. And it has already been up there for like a hot minute. We went over this document. And yeah, it is gone. This is Exhibit B. This is the 16B7 materials for sanctions, guilt phase experts. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Look right here. Did they just put it? They must have just put it back. Or no, okay, no, this isn't it. This is just, this was the paperwork that goes along with the attachment. So this right here is the attachment, but it's his like list of devices that he worked on. Yeah. Okay, so let's read it. We're going to go over it, and I'll just put this up separately since now this is like, why did they take it down? Okay, so this is the January 7th, 2025 Lawrence Mowry amended exhibit for S10. And as you can see, it's a list of the devices. We did go over this document. I remember specifically going over this, but we're going to look at it again. So I wonder if they're going to put it back and what the problem is, because it's just a list of devices. Okay. The state has disclosed Lawrence Mowry, forensic detective for the Moscow Police Department, in this supplemental discovery response. It is anticipated the state will call Detective Mowry to testify generally as an expert in the field of digital forensics, in addition to testifying in areas not requiring special expertise, such as search warrant applications, etc. This notice serves to supplement the information in Detective Mowry's reports by summarizing areas of anticipated testimony, but does not repeat the specific findings that are detailed in his report. In addition to this summary, Detective Mowry may testify to any of the subjects identified in his report and may identify and testify to chain of custody, extractions, electronic data, files, and location records identified in the materials made available to the defendant. Based upon Detective Mowry's experience and training, which is detailed in his curriculum vitae attached as Exhibit S10A, Detective Mowry will discuss extraction, imaging, examination, processing, verification, transportation, and chain of custody. It is anticipated he could testify in the following areas. The 1112 King Road camera. We know all about the way that that went down. They really did not want the fact that they allowed all these people to have username and password access for a week before they actually got their own copy of the footage to have been known to the courtroom. I promise you they didn't. The 1122 King Road router interrogation and records associated, including but not limited to charter communication account information, this specific IP address, private networks, Kaylee's Mac Air computer, Dylan's Mac Air, Xana and Madison also had Mac Air computers. I said when we went over this, I feel like those were probably school-assigned laptops. That makes the most sense to me for them all being MacBooks. Dell Latitude belonging to Madison. Dell Precision belonging to Kaylee, including but not limited to Extreme Networks account information. The iPad belonging to Bethany Funk. Remember when the forensic chick said it was a laptop and not an iPad and how important that is? This is why. iPhone belonging to Dylan, iPhone belonging to Bethany, iPhone belonging to Ethan, iPhone belonging to Eric Gower, and then we see that iPhone belonging to Jack Showalter was scratched out and says, item removed as this item does not exist and was erroneously included in original disclosure. Then the iPhones of Jack, Emily, Xana, Madison, and Kaylee, which, by the way, up until the plea, they had not been able to actually unlock Kaylee's phone. They were able to get warrants for call detail data. They were able to get whatever the Goncalveses apparently would have access to in way of there being a shared account. But they also claimed that they had a bunch of shared passwords that the whole family just used everywhere. And Kaylee's phone magically can't be opened. How the hell do we have the FBI, Homeland Security, marshals, multiple states, multiple FBI offices, all kinds of people, all kinds of other departments playing hot potato with this phone, and nobody can unlock it? Nobody can jailbreak an iPhone and give it to an 8th grader. I bet you they can. Like, come on. Amazon accounts associated with the defendants, Apple iCloud accounts belonging to the defendant, Bethany, Dylan, Jack, Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, AT&T records for the defendant, Jack Showalter, Maddie, Xana, and why is Maddie on here twice? Maddie's on there twice. DoorDash records associated with Ethan, Xana, and Molly. And see, this is why this is so crazy to me. And I know, again, this is from back in January, but we need to remember that when they did the motions, when they did the self-authenticating records, they said they didn't have Xana's information, but they had a receipt that showed the GPS location, that showed the time, that showed the 1122 King Road, all that information, while saying in the same report they didn't have Xana's info. Then the information from DoorDash gets FOIA'd and it's coming to us from Xana's account. So they still need to explain to us why. They said they didn't have Xana's information. They only had Ethan's, yet they produced us a receipt and the self-authenticating record was not signed that they gave us. That's also a big problem. Dropbox accounts associated with the defendant, Google Gmail accounts belonging to the defendant and Kaylee, Google geofence location, latitude, longitude points. And in that live I pulled up, we checked all of these points and they made like just a weird shape around the area. Match Tinder accounts belonging to the defendant, Kaylee and Maddie. Meta accounts belonging to Bethany, Dylan, Ethan, Maddie, Xana, Jack, and Kaylee. Microsoft One accounts associated with the defendant. Reddit accounts belonging to the defendant and Kaylee. Strava accounts belonging to the defendant. Notice they don't say his name. It's just defendant. Snapchat accounts belonging to Maddie, Xana, Kaylee, Ethan, Jack, Dylan, and Bethany. TikTok accounts belonging to defendant Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, Dylan, Bethany, and Ethan. T-Mobile associated records with Dylan Mortensen and Kaylee Goncalves. How many of y'all have T-Mobile and are in the middle of all of that? I'm going to raise your line for $6. Crazy stuff that I've been seeing all over Twitter. People are mad. Tower dump records for Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, Inland Cellular. Twitter accounts belonging to the defendant. Uber records belonging to Eric, which I still don't understand why, considering that he was literally off the clock when he did the ride and always said when he got a call from any of those people in that area, any of these little cute little college girls, that he literally went off the clock. So I don't really know what the point of that was, unless there's places like around the area that he was on the record for and they wanted to show like proximity for something, because they also have his phone information that all the way back in January 2025 they were going to end up submitting, even though we'd been doing all this for like some years now. Same thing about that timeline that, they say doesn't exist, but it's in the book with all these dates and timestamps and stuff on it. And they have Jack Showalter information, Connor Chestnut information, all the way in 2023, at the end of 2023, a year after all this went down. And they don't want to explain why. They act like we're crazy for asking questions, but we're trying to understand what their intentions were with all this stuff, and they refuse to answer. Verizon records associated with Ethan, Bethany, and Jack. Yahoo accounts belonging to Kaylee. Yik Yak accounts belonging to the defendant. YouTube accounts belonging to the defendant. But Molly McMichael's number right here, maybe that's why. But this is like no longer a working thing. This is not even associated with her anymore. Computer tower seized from the address. Samsung cell phone model belonging to the defendant. SIM card for the cell phone for the defendant. Intel 512 gigabyte hard drive for the defendant. Seagate Barracuda 1 terabyte for the defendant. Samsung 256 gigabyte model SSD card belonging to the defendant. Acer laptop belonging to the defendant. Hard drive for Acer laptop belonging to the defendant, and then data acquisition from Hyundai Elantra belonging to the defendant. This disclosure is provided as an aid. It does not encompass all findings, impressions, conclusions, or materials related to this expert's involvement in this case. It further does not in any way limit the scope of the expert's testimony. Further, this witness may testify about findings, impressions, and or conclusions that he drew from the work of other experts who previously examined or handled the evidence in question. Yeah, so many devices, no timeline. They can't tell us when Ethan and Xana actually got back to the house. They have no idea when they got back to the house, meaning they can't, from their phone location, find where they got back. They can't say when their phone's attached to the Wi-Fi, nothing. And at 2:15, they're telling us that Xana was not at 1122 King Road when she apparently made that DoorDash order. But they don't know where the hell she was. How? How? Insane. So I don't know. I don't know why they removed it, because we know that like this number is no longer like associated with her. So I don't know. We'll see if they ever put it back. We'll see if they ever put it back, but I kind of highly doubt that they're going to. And if they do, it'll be when we don't even realize, because now, again, like I said, we're moving into 2024. And we're just waiting on them to actually drop an order saying that they're going to start that process. But they've got so many other things going on. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. Like I said, I don't know exactly what we're going to do later on tonight. It just all depends, because I do have some of the information from Moscow when it comes to item number 40. And I also, like you guys saw, submitted a request with Ada County. I don't know how fast Ada County gets back. I don't have any idea how fast Ada County gets back with stuff. I know that Idaho State Police is pretty quick. I know Latah County Sheriff's Office was pretty decently quick. It's just Moscow that does all this insane stuff. It literally is Moscow that takes like 30 days. It literally is Moscow that charges you for all this stuff. All of these other agencies I've never paid for. The only other stuff that I've paid for besides Moscow is from like Pacer or something on there where you have to pay like, what is it, $5.50 or whatever, like per document you want to get or whatever, something like that. That's really it. Which is also really freaking crazy. Really crazy. Yeah. So I'm going to get some stuff together and see what they sent me, because I have not even looked at it yet. I haven't even downloaded it yet. I don't know what it is, but it's item number 40. That was not blood from the kitchen. That little spot on the floor is not blood. It tested negative for blood, was not sent to the lab for testing, ended up in the refrigerator situation where the refrigerator got broken the same day of the closed session in January, where they told us about unknown DNA after the Kohberger call. And then suddenly the refrigerator goes kaput. Interesting timing. So we'll see what they have in there. That's probably what we'll go live with tonight, because it's facts that we've been waiting for. I'm going to go look through it right now and see what they have to say. I'm going to also start going through, I think this Monday, we might start our Moscow Monday, where we start going back through the reports one at a time and making sure that there's nothing that we're missing in way of what's being stated, what might need to be FOIA'd, stuff that we've missed. I know that just in the narrative alone, there's like 4 things that are associated events. I'm actually going to pull that up, and I'm going to go ahead and get those 4 filed today. I'm going to put them all in the exact same FOIA because they're coming from the exact same document. So I'll let you guys know when that's done. I'll probably post it in the community tab, because it is like a welfare check and like 3 other events that are literally considered like related issues. We have a threatening situation on July 12th, 2023. And it's related / discovery. We have February 7th, 2023, which is an accident non-injury considered a related incident. And then a welfare check considered a related incident. And a burglary considered a related discovery incident. So we have threatening on July 12th. We have burglary on 6/21. We have an incident non-injury on 2/7. And then we have welfare check on 11/21/22. All considered related. So I'm going to leave this up, and I'll file those FOIAs today to see what they say. Later, probably later. 8 may make you fill out the form first. I sent the form in today. So it is 3 days. That shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, I did it earlier. Like in the live, I popped it over, and like while Hippler was talking, I was like, oh yeah, because we wanted to look at the threats that were sent over. So we'll see what they say with those. But yeah. I don't know what time yet. I'll let you guys know. It'll probably be like our normal 7:45, around 8:15, somewhere around there. But it'll be up soon. I'm going to go look and see what's going on. File some stuff. I'll let you guys know. I'm going to get the stuff also updated on the Google Drive because I have like 8 or 9 currently on their new portal, and some of them have been closed out. You guys saw them tell me lots of shit didn't exist that totally should exist because we've got reports claiming it should exist. So I got to update that stuff. I'll let you guys know when that's done too. And again, the Google Drive link is in the description box of every video. I no longer have it where I have to like approve anything because it has a limit for the amount of people that can have access that way. And as far as I can tell, with it being just an open link, everyone has been able to access it. So it'll be in the description. It's in the description box of all these videos for people that are looking for it. But I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. Thank you again for coming in here. Thank you for the gifted memberships and the super sticker. I very much appreciate that. You guys have a great rest of your afternoon, and I will see you guys in a little bit. See y'all. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that the notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives.